name is Ann Bosarge, and I am the founder and director of a nonprofit called Digital Discipleship, which is an organization that has two groups. One is called Becoming More, which is a women's ministry, and the other is called the Chapel Online, which is a global community of faith focusing on discipleship, meeting people right where they are, right when they need us. And those platforms are on Facebook as well as WhatsApp. We have active members in both platforms, and we are in 50 different countries all around the world. And I guess because the name of our organization is Digital Discipleship, that's why Jeff said, well, Ann, you should teach this session on digital discipleship. And I'm so pleased to be able to share with you all what I have learned over the last couple of years since beginning to lead this digital discipleship movement that God is leading and really has implanted in the hearts and the minds of so many people that are a part of our groups. So you might just help me start with the first thing. What is discipleship? I think a lot of us have very differing opinions on what discipleship is based on our prior experience with it. So sometimes we might think of discipleship as a Sunday school class or a Bible study. Some of us may think of discipleship as more of a holistic thing, kind of a worship, grow, and serve kind of a process. Others may think of discipleship more in the biblical sense, that it is following a teacher closely. Well, I don't know about you, but I've been a student of discipleship for quite some time, and I actually am sitting here with just a selection of my books on discipleship. So much has been published, so much has been said about discipleship, and I will not even attempt to go into all of the things that I have learned from these experienced and wise authors. But I just want to share with you what I have discovered through digital discipleship about discipleship in general, what it means, and how we can do it in a digital space. So when we first started Becoming More, this was at the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020, and we actually had an in-person women's ministry that was meeting and had been meeting for several weeks, and we were in the middle of a curriculum series when everything shut down. And the women who were a part of our small group realized that we were not going to be connected in person anymore, and Gracie, my coworker, and I were leading this group, and they said, Ann, we can't just shut down. We've got to keep going. I mean, this is a pandemic. This is something that we need to maintain. We need this for our lives. And so Gracie and I began to think, okay, how can we keep these women together in the middle of a pandemic? And we noticed that most of them were already on Facebook. And so we hopped onto Facebook and we began to do lives on Sunday night where Gracie and I would be live and the women would be commenting in the comments, and we would interact with them and engage with them. We began doing live prayers. We began having daily discipleship posts. And really what we discovered about discipleship is that the core essence of discipleship is becoming more like Jesus. That is the core essence of discipleship. How we do it is just a method, but the purpose and the point is for each and every one of us to become more like Jesus so that we can help others become more like Jesus. And that's what we began to see happening in Becoming More. Very soon into our time on Facebook, in these Facebook groups, we noticed that the women were inviting their friends, and then their friends were inviting friends. And we began to see this beautiful community forming where women could just authentically be themselves and express what was happening in their lives. Friends, when we think about discipleship and becoming more like Jesus, the way that we do that is almost like an inhale and an exhale. It's this beautiful relationship that we have with God where we inhale more time with Him, more time spent in His presence in worship, more time in meditation and silence and solitude and all of those personal spiritual disciplines that are so critical for our personal discipleship. We keep on inhaling and inhaling more and more time with God. And as we do, we begin to love Him more because we realize how much He loves us. But friends, just like when you breathe, you can't just keep on inhaling and inhaling and inhaling. There needs to be an exhale that follows that. It's a rhythm of inhale and exhale that keeps us living and active. And when I think of that exhale in terms of discipleship, really what I'm thinking about is the fact that whenever we inhale time with Jesus, we then need to exhale that out into the world. So that comes through service, it comes through outreach, it comes through building relationships with other people who are a part of the kingdom and other people who are not yet part of the kingdom. Friends, there's this beautiful rhythm of inhaling time with God and then exhaling that time, that breath of the Spirit out into the world. So how do we do that in a digital space? I think typically what has happened in digital discipleship is that we put a lot of content on social media channels, or we produce a lot of content on digital platforms, and we think that that is discipleship. But the first thing that we don't really see is, how are people engaging with this? Is this something that they're really taking in that is transforming their life so that they can become more like Jesus? Or is it just something that they're kind of grabbing their attention and then scrolling on through? So we need to be able to think about, how can we actively engage people in this inhale and exhale of discipleship through these digital channels and these digital means? Well, a couple of ways that we can do that in terms of inhale is to give people the opportunity to come to know Jesus more, to come to understand more about God and who He is, and to be able to inhale that time with Him personally. So we can equip them to do that through Bible reading plans, through worship experiences where we ask people to interact and engage during those times. Even your church live stream can do that if you say, hey, those of you who are online, respond in this way in the comments, or submit a prayer request in this way. We can pray for each other. We can encourage each other to all of our individual members to pray and give them the tools in order to do that. But then we also want to make sure that we're giving people the tools to exhale, that we're telling them how they can apply that in their lives, that we're asking them and giving them the opportunity to respond and to say, hey, what does that look like in your life? Go do it and come tell us about it. Right? And what would it look like if you took this into your life and then shared it with someone that you know, maybe who doesn't know Jesus? Who is that one person that God has called you to minister to? Go out and do that and then come tell us about it. Or here are some ways that we can respond and reach out to other people in our community, in our circles, in our world. Friends, we need to provide through digital tools this opportunity to meet people right where they are in the middle of their lives and help them leverage their everyday lives for the sake of the gospel. So many of us who have been in established churches are familiar with the idea of a discipleship process. Typically, we would say that a discipleship process helps move people through into deeper levels of discipleship. And so what that would look like often in an established church is kind of this idea of connect and then grow and serve, or worship and grow and tell, or some of these key words that help give us movement points and measurement points for people to move deeper on their spiritual journey, deeper in faith. But what we find in the digital space is that too often the measurements and the movement structures that we have created for in-person discipleship don't always work the same in a digital space. And so we might need to relook at that, because when we talk about, for example, worship, grow, and serve, well, worship online, yes, that's important, but if we're not careful, it can just become a consumeristic activity instead of actually moving people deeper to respond. Or growing, yes, people can consume Bible studies, but are they really being transformed and changed? How do we know that? What's the evidence of that? Or even for serving, yes, we can tell people to go out and serve, but how do we really know that they're serving in their community and they're really living that out? We've got to come up with a system, a discipleship process that gives us next step measurements so we can ensure that our discipleship ministries, our digital discipleship, is being effective in accomplishing its purpose. You may already have one, and if you do, I hope that you will share it with this group and share it with those of us who are in this ministry and field. But I just want to share this discipleship process of digital discipleship and what that looks like in our context with you. And maybe you can make those adjustments that you need in order to develop one of your own. So at Digital Discipleship, we recognize that digitally speaking, we begin to move people through the stages of deeper level discipleship through 3 different areas. The first area is that people, whenever they come to digital discipleship, whenever they join one of our groups, we recognize that they are first going to be consumers. So consumer is the first stage. And a lot of times being a consumer gets a bad rap in the discipleship space. Like, you've got to do more than just consume. But friends, that's our starting point. We need to be celebrating the fact that more people are coming to consume what we have to offer. Now, do we want to leave them there? Absolutely not. But consumers are the people that will begin to watch your worship services, that will begin to tune in when you have live events or live prayers, that will begin this process of maybe liking a post, or will like your page, those kinds of things, will join a particular group. Those are areas areas that consumers can actively get engaged with and involved with. But then, if we're moving people deeper in their discipleship, we don't just leave them at consumers, we want them to move to contributors. And contributors are people who don't just consume, but begin to like and comment. We begin to see them sharing what we've done with other people. We begin to see them contributing to the overall vision and mission of our project. We begin to see them contributing to conversations, maybe over Zoom or live discussion. We see them requesting prayer during a live prayer time. We begin to see these people contributing to the life and the energy and the function and the mission and purpose of the organization. And so we've moved people from this idea of consumers to contributors. But it doesn't stop there. We want to move people into leadership. We want people to move from contributors to being creators. And in a digital space, that is a beautiful thing to see. Your creators are the people who begin creating posts, who begin asking to create content, who are the ones that want to lead the live prayers or the other worship experiences that you have. Maybe these are the ones who you begin seeing creating relationships within the group, where offline they're messaging and having relationships outside of the group, and they're building each other up even outside of the group. These are the people that you see saying, I want to do my own group. Show me how to do this. These are the people that are going deeper in their discipleship and responding to what God is doing in their lives and what they have been a part of, by taking it to the next level and going and doing their own thing. In a church world, this would be like a church plant that would go off and do their own thing and begin building new community and new networks of people to hear the gospel. In discipleship, we want to move people from consumers to contributors to creators. And friends, I think that this is so key and so critical, because what we want to do in discipleship is help people become more like Jesus. and to provide environments for them to help other people become more like Jesus. And I know that that seems like a scary thing, and I know that many of our people may never think that they could even get there to that point. But I think that's why it's important for us to give them a framework by which they can begin to be disciples that make disciples, whether it's in their lives or online. And so here's a quick and easy framework that I love to give people to help them learn that they are disciples to make disciples. And the first word is this. It's this framework of ready, set, go, and repeat. Ready has a question mark next to it because that's often the question that disciples are asking. Am I ready for this? Are you sure? You are ready, because if you have had an encounter with Jesus, then you have something to share with someone. So ready? Yes, you are. Get set. Get set is getting your heart set for what you're about to do. And the only way that we can perfectly get our heart set is by focusing on what God is doing in us and the fact that He is with us wherever we go. It's asking for the Holy Spirit to come into your heart and empower you with courage that you need in order to share the gospel with someone else and to share the good news of what Jesus has done with you. So are you ready? Yes, you are. Get set. You need to pray and ask the Spirit to be with you. And then it's time to go. There's no more time to waste. It's time to go and build a relationship. Now, does that mean standing on the street corner and proclaiming in a megaphone that Jesus is the only way to heaven? Not necessarily. What it means is that you begin this slow, intentional process of making a disciple, of building a relationship with someone in a way that will allow you to share what Jesus has done in your life. Sometimes that takes weeks. Sometimes it takes years. This go part is not something that is really, really quick and fast and you're looking for quick results and then you move on to the next one. This is a deep relationship building. So are you ready? Yes. Are you set? Pray. Go. Go and build relationships and share what God has done in your life. And then the next step is repeat. You go do that again for someone else, and you encourage the person that you have been meeting with, that you have been investing in, to go and share their story with someone else because they are ready to get set and go and repeat themselves. Friends, that is good for digital environments. It's good for in-person environments. But the thing that I think we need to realize is that digital is not the mission, it's just the method. I think sometimes we get it confused and we think we've got to be online in order to survive. No. Using our online digital tools are just a method to accomplish the mission. And the mission that we have been given, the commissioning that God has on our lives that Jesus gave to us, is to go and make disciples. So friends, I hope that that's exactly what you will do on digital platforms, in in-person ways, in virtual ways, that we will use all the tools available to us to help us accomplish the mission of making disciples.